It is a beautiful March day, March 3rd, sunny out. Actually went outside. It feels you can, again, remember we talked about that smell of spring.
Not sure what it smells like near you. Anyway, I mean, you're kind of dressed nice to be out there in the garden, though, pal.
Excellent point. You palled me, so you're clearly upset about something, but you shouldn't be upset about this because on this date in 1882, one Charles Ponzi was born. Charles Ponzi in Italy.
Was he Charles or was he Carlo?
He was Carlo Pietro Giovanni Guglielmo Tebaldo Ponzi.
Hey, forget about it. So, all right. So Carlo Ponzi, and obviously he did some bad stuff. That guy. He obviously. Now the question is, did Mr. Ponzi get himself into a little hot water, or was he always planning a scheme where you're essentially funding the scheme with new money in to get the old people out?
He promised within a certain amount of days, he promised 50% back on your investment. And then, a certain amount of days after that, 100% back. And he was able to get away with it for close to a year. And I think in today's money-ish, it was like a $200 million or so windfall for one Carlo Ponzi.
Inflation adjusted from the 1890s to 2020, it was about a $200 million fraud.
Obviously, a Ponzi scheme was named after Ponzi. But do you think there were schemes like that prior to, and he was just the one that was, named, or his name took on a meaning of its own?
Look, I mean, you get a scheme named after you, you've done all right. Isn't Ponzi? Isn't that also an exhaust system? Isn't that because you were kind of a gearhead growing up, right?
A little bit.
Get under the hood of the car.
We had to do that because we couldn't afford to go to those Jiffy Lubes like you guys in Scarsdale to get oil changed. We had to actually do it ourselves. It was a problem.
No, for sure. What's that term you use when you're turning the spark plug just enough, but not too much? You got.
That's an excellent, right.
There's like a tool. Come on, dude. You're not legit if you can't tell me what that is.
It's a certain wrench. It calibrates the pistons to fire correctly.
Don't calibrate me, man, Mr. Ponzi. So there's a Ponzi exhaust, which I think makes your car kind of purr. It's when you have one of those shitty cars, when you put like an exhaust on it to make it sound a little bit.
Sure.
And you put like the curb feelers on it and the tinted windows and obviously you had louvers on your Trans Am, but I digress. All right, so clearly there are parts of the market that feel Ponzi-esque, although again, Ponzi is really would be reference to a hedge fund strategy gone bad, right? And we've certainly had 20 years ago, or I should say 10 years ago, Madoff was the ultimate Ponzi. There was a handful of Ponzi's around that. It wasn't just. But if we think about, and we could slot the Fed in here, which we love to do, but the question is, are either some of these story stocks, whether it's space or whether it's Virgin Galactic, which I don't know, that may be a stretch. Maybe it's this rocket that's been in the news over the last couple of days. Maybe it's even one of these Reddit stocks where really it's about last money out's the rotten egg. But it does feel like we're on the fringes of your great grandfather, Mr.
Charles Carlo.
Sure,
yeah,
Carlo.
I think it's important to point out, we're not suggesting the companies. What we're saying is, there seems to be forces at work. Nefarious or not, taking advantage of social media in a way that we haven't maybe ever seen before. And you're seeing moves in stocks that really shouldn't be taking place. Rocket companies, Tim pointed out. I mean, the move yesterday was extraordinary. And then the subsequent move today is equally extraordinary. And I'm sure fortunes were made and lost on both. But you can't tell me that the fundamentals on either direction suggested those types of moves over less than a 24-hour period. It's problematic. I mean, the gamification of the market is clearly well underway. And regardless of what you think, I mean, that's just a problem.
There are folks coming forward. We've had these folks on Fast Money. There are people that are basically saying it's really more about understanding where the pockets of momentum are. So using big data and AI to really understand where momentum is, but to be picking up either these, the number of momentum tweets on the way up for a particular stock, or understanding which are getting the most mentions on a Reddit board, or understanding, where you actually have the biggest sentiment outliers, and that fundamentals don't even really matter anymore. And that's the part of this that I think is usually what comes up when markets are trading at extremes, and it's at the upside and it's at the downside. Clearly around the depths of COVID, and I think we bottomed out, I don't know, is it March 23rd is what I want to say were the lows of the market, but that is also, look, on the way down, you get these moments too. And as investors, we have to be hopefully finding both sides of this trade. But when I think of, Ponzi, at least as it was undertaken by your great uncle, Carlo, was he, by the way, was he a made man, do you think? And or do you think was the Ponzi scheme itself something that turned him into a made man, because the other guys were actually impressed by his ability to pull this off?
There's a word that we use from time to time. Actually, it's the name of a book as well. It's called omerta.
Oh, say that again. Omerta. Like
So,
what you did.
So the word itself suggests that I'm just, there's no reason for me to answer that question. I'm not gonna either confirm nor deny.
I realize movies like Goodfellas and The Godfather, Bronx Tale. Bronx Tale is one of my favorite movies, by the way. I just want to say, old Chaz Palminteri, but if you had a chance to live the life of a wise guy, as it was played out in Goodfellas, I mean, would you be Ray Liotta, guy? Would you be Guy Liotta?
Ray Liotta, obviously, he turned late in that story, and I'd like to think that I wouldn't succumb to some of the pressures. He also indulged in some of his product, which is problematic for me as well. So I don't think Ray Liotta is necessarily the guy that I would have patterned myself after.
Okay, is there anybody in the
I think of myself
of great, fine Italian American.
I think of myself as more of a Michael Corleone. Tried to go the straight route, did everything right, watched and understood what happened to his father, and then the vindictiveness in him came out in spades, along with some of the cunning, and he eliminated everybody over the course of a 24-hour period.
Just a man of principle. That's all. I mean, you're not looking to create the problem, but if in fact there have been wrongs, they need to be made right. And I see you as that guy. It's funny, we're talking about Carl Ponzi, but Fonzie was like that. I mean, Arthur Fonzarelli, he was there to right the wrongs. He wasn't there to beat up Bag and the demons, for no reason.
And what's interesting about Fonz, I mean, I will tell you that the first 3 years of Happy Days were the iconic years. When he became sort of the focal point of the show, I think that's when things started to really turn bad. I like Fonzie when he was only in for a few minutes, like Batgirl on Batman and Robin. She wasn't paramount, but every once in a while she'd drop in. Not unlike Fonzie. And I think when they made him the guy, it sort of everything turned for me.
Or like Larry on Three's Company. Larry just kind of phased in and out, and showed you what the 70s were all about, to be a guy in a polyester suit at the Regal Beagle.
Which is a great establishment, by the way.
Yeah, were you wearing polyester? Because you're old enough to have really put in some time in the 70s.
But I'll tell you a quick funny story before we get out of here. My roommate, Ron Peck, had polyester socks. And I was just mortified by them. So one night I took a lighter to them and I burned them.
I bet they went up pretty quickly.
What's interesting, not only did they go up quickly, but they actually they melted, and the residue actually landed on my hand. It burned a hole through my hand. I still carry with me a scar from those socks. So every time I see the scar, I think of Ron Peck.
Very appropriate guy. Stay away from polyester socks. Stay away from Ponzi schemes, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Later.